Welcome to Stacking the Dealer, the podcast where we talk cars, sales strategy, and what it takes to win in the auto industry. No fluff, no corporate scripts, just real conversation from inside the dealership world. Anthony Birdsong, my man, how is your life going right now? Anything big happen in the last week?
Well, not really. I've been working on this campaign quite a bit. Some people broke into my store in Westminster a few months, almost actually a year and a half ago, and I had defended myself against a criminal, and I was charged with assault, and I let them know that if they did that, I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that they were unelected. So I'm doing everything in my power to make sure they're getting unelected, and as you know, Josh, I can become laser focused on things, so that has been my absolute priority, and in the next 12 days we will know how I did in making that happen.
Yeah, that story, I still can't believe it. I mean, two kids broke into your store, you defended yourself, and they didn't get charged with breaking and entering, but you got charged with assault. Mind-blowing, the world that we live in.
So I'm doing the early election stuff. I'm sitting out there and talking to people as they walk in to vote, and I'll tell you, it looks very positive for us, at least up here where I am.
That's cool. That is cool. Well, some exciting stuff, I think, at both of our stores. We're both switching CRMs from Vin Solutions to. Now, you and I went a different route as far as CRMs go. I went Pro Max, and I'll talk about my reason why there. Who'd you go? You went with Drive Centric.
Drive Centric, yep.
And what was your main reason why? Because we looked at, how many CRMs did we look at?
I think we looked at somewhere close to 14 or 15 different CRMs.
Yeah, we looked it up, which I was mind blown that there was that many CRMs out there. And then there were some really good ones. I was really surprised. I thought Auto Raptor was really good. I thought they were missing a critical piece for their AI follow-up. But other than that, I thought they were, if you haven't heard of Auto Raptor, I think if they can get that fixed, they will be a really good CRM. Drive Centric has been around for a while, also thinks a really good CRM. And then, a lot of us, like me, I used Tacobi essentially as my CRM. So my driving factor was a little bit different. It was more from a desking and paperwork standpoint. But what pushed you towards Drive Centric?
You're still keeping Tacobi even though you're going with the other CRM, right?
Correct. Yep.
So actually for me, the big issue was that I didn't want to do the multi thing anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have Vin and Tacobi or Tacobi and somebody else. I wanted to have one system that does it all. And I'll be honest with you, my favorite system that we demoed was Auto Raptor, but there were two issues with Auto Raptor. The first one was the AI follow-up issues that they had, and the second one was the API feed. We track everything at my store, and I'm a really big AI guy. We use AI for a lot of stuff, and API feeds are absolutely critical in doing different types of AI analyzation, and you can't do it with API feeds, and they weren't willing to work with us on an API feed. So Drive Centric was an all-in-one platform, and that was what made me shift my.
And Drive Centric's been around for a while. I remember their kind of claim to fame in the very beginning was videos. When you used to send videos, you'd have to take the video, upload it to YouTube, send somebody the link. It was such a pain in the butt. So no salesperson did custom videos. And then Drive Centric came out with the ability to shoot videos and text it to the customer within their platform, which was huge. The big complaint was always the price, but I believe their price came down pretty significantly.
So yeah, when I originally was demoed with them, I think you were on that call.
Yep.
I don't remember, but they were something like $8,000 a month, and I basically laughed the guy off the phone.
Yeah.
And now they have a different pricing for independents than they do for franchises. And so it became quite a bit more affordable. I definitely wasn't going to pay $8,000 a month. So when they dropped their price, and the big thing that I liked about Drive Centric, and obviously we haven't been with them yet for very long at all, is that when we went to NADA, the people that were working the booth were just so friendly, so welcoming, so accommodating. I even ended up speaking with the CTO, who just was, really a genuinely good person and wanted to help and wanted to be helpful. And when he found out, what we're doing, they were the first company to step up and say, we want to be a part of that. And so I was really appreciative of that. I'm a really big loyalty guy, and I felt like that was really cool of them. So those are the main reasons that I switched to DriveCentric. We demoed a lot of products. There's a lot of really interesting CRMs out there. There's some that still have no AI, which is amazing to me. Vin being one of them. Vin does not have their own AI. And why Cox doesn't get with the fucking program, I just will never figure this out. I mean, you hire some young guy that's hungry and make him the CEO, and I'm telling you that understands the car business, they would transform that whole company. I mean, it is just, the fucking DMS is from 1970, the CRM is from 1985, none of the shit works with the other shit. They have a bridge ID that gets you into the fucking stuff, but none of it works with each other. It's so frustrating sitting back and it's like you have vAuto and you have Profit Time and you have Global Search and you have Stockwave, and none of the motherfuckers work together. They all tell you something different, and it's almost comical, and it's like, God damn, guys, just get with the program. And so I'll tell you, there's a lot of CRMs out there that are available for you to use that are really good. And there's some that aren't good. But, one of the things Josh and I are going to do is we're going to start demoing some of these products for you to give you an idea of what's available to you, what can really help you, give you a competitive advantage in this difficult world that we live in.
Yeah, there's a lot of products out there. And like I said, there was a bunch of CRMs that I didn't know about. And it's always interesting to me when there's a product out there that I haven't heard about, because I feel like their marketing sucks at that point. We both demoed products. We both have different needs and wants, and we both went with different CRMs for different reasons. One of the reasons why I went with ProMax was their digital paperwork. I have a goal of eliminating paper in the dealership and putting Lexmark printers out of business, and they have an ability to, which they sold it to me as kind of a deal for remote signings, and I said, I'm going to use this for the guests on my showroom floor, so we can digitally send the paperwork to the customer. We already digitally do all of the finance paperwork, and so we won't have a piece of paper in a deal jacket. And I just think that's pretty impressive. So that was why I went with them. The desking part of it is not as relevant to me because I did keep to Kobe. So we both went a slightly different route. And I think that as we start to demo some of these products, there's going to be people that go, yeah, that would fit my store great. Because what fits one store might not fit another store. What somebody's goals are might not be somebody else's goals. But there are some incredible products out there. We demoed some really good stuff. So I can't wait to share that with the people out there, because I think there's an opportunity. If you don't go to NADA or NIADA or one of these, conventions, then you might miss out on some of this stuff because they only have so many salespeople, and there's, 60,000 car dealerships, including independents across the country. There's no way they can reach everybody. So it's an opportunity for us to demo it and show it to you guys and see what they think and see if they think it might be a good fit for their store. But I thought that was interesting how both of us demoed it, and we're both independent lots as well, and we both went a different direction.
There is two things I want to talk about that I think. One is something you're doing that I think is really cool that we need to talk about for other dealers. And the second thing that I want to talk about is complacency. And one of the reasons that we kind of stick with what we know, even though it may not be best for us, right? We get very comfortable with the tools that we use. And so, like, for example, for me, I've been using vAuto for 14 years now, 15 years. And I've really learned how to use the system well. Now, does that mean that if another system comes along that isn't better, that doesn't work better for the store, that I shouldn't jump on it? Now, here's the thing that's interesting, that, as dealers, we kind of stay to ourselves. We're very protective of how we sell and what we do. And one of the really cool things about this show is Josh and I have made a decision that we're going to give you the tools. We're not going to hide anything. We're not going to keep anything from you. If you want to be successful, you are talking to listening to two guys talk that are extremely successful in the car business. Like I said before, we sold 195 cars last month. I've been a top 1% performer in the nation for the last 10 years. I started with nothing. Josh has built an incredible brand on social media, and he, because of that brand, is able to make high profit margins on lower amounts of sales. So if you take our two strategies and you combine them, you end up with what Charlie Munger calls a Lollapalooza effect. And Josh has really got a lot of benefits from my processes. I've got a lot of benefits from Josh's processes. And we've both been able to push each other to the next level through our friendship and through each other's mentorship. And that's really what a friendship is supposed to be. And that's what this podcast is supposed to be for you guys that are out there, right? So complacency is a real thing. You know, even with me, you get to a point where you live in a big house, you have a beach house, you have 6 or 7 nice watches, you have a nice car, and it becomes easy to become the wolf at the top of the mountain. And it's very important every once in a while that you throw yourself down that motherfucker and start climbing it again. Because if you don't, you're gonna fall off. Somebody's gonna come and throw you off. And so for me, I'm constantly trying to climb to the next peak every single day. And there have been times in my life where I've become complacency, and when I look back on that, it's the most unhappiest that I ever was. And so when I'm growing, when I'm building, when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, when I'm helping others, that's when I'm the happiest.
Yeah. I agree, and I reached that point in my career a while ago, was that helping people was where I really started to, I felt that in my soul. It was fuel for my soul, for sure.
I want to, before we move on or keep talking about this, I don't want to forget about the second thing, which is something that you've been doing over the last month that I think is just really fucking cool. And a lot of people don't understand how cool this is, and that's going paperless, okay? I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, all right? But I will tell you that it has been a goal of mine for, I'd say, the last 4 years. I would like to get rid of every single fucking piece of paper in my dealership. I want to save all the fucking trees. I want to keep the fucking paper out. And the transition that you've been making is so cool to me, and Erica and I are so interested in it, that I want to talk, rather than, we have all these private conversations off the phone, off the podcast, on the phone. Let's have one on the podcast. So when you talk about going paperless, I want you to just walk me through a process. Customer comes in, they say yes. We're at a point, they're going into finance. Okay. When you say paperless, how many actual physical pieces of paper are they leaving with? And the reason I'm asking this before you answer is because sometimes people say we're paperless and they have the customer leaving with 15 papers.
Yeah.
So what does paperless mean? And walk us through how it's happening, why it's happening, and how many pieces of paper the customer's actually leaving with.
So we have 2 distinct transactions, remote and in-person, and we do quite a bit of remote and quite a bit of in-person as well. So we'll stick with the in-person. I'm still printing menus, pencils, proposals, whatever you want to call that. I think there's some value in the salesperson presenting that as opposed to on an iPad. You can scribble, make notes, that sort of thing. So we're presenting that to them. Customer says yes. We then email them every single form, all of our preliminary forms, and then just like everybody, we've got dealership specific forms. All of those, I don't know what there is, a dozen or so forms there. We email that to them. They sign it. And the neat thing in the Pro Max deal is,
For a minute, I'm going to interrupt you a couple times because I want to understand it, and I'm being serious. Okay. So you email it. Does it arrive as a DocuSign?
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, why, for example, so I understand, do you have to email it to them opposed to them signing it right on a tablet?
I could do that. we have chosen to just operate exactly the same, whether the customer is in person or remote. But we absolutely can send it to a tablet, and they can sign it on a tablet if that's what we chose.
When you said a tablet in your office, is there, like, for example, it seems to me that there would be a paper trail that would be a little bit stronger with you emailing it to them and signing it on the email versus doing a DocuSign, in your office that isn't emailed to them, because you could always say to a judge, it was emailed, they opened the email, they signed it, and they sent it back to us. Whereas another thing could
On
be
the tablet, if when they complete it, it would be emailed to them as well. But so that would be an option, because signing it on the showroom floor, they're on their phone. So I imagine, and we just started this, but I imagine maybe an older clientele or something, I may have to put it on a tablet so they can see some things. But that's what we do. The one piece of paper we haven't been able to figure out is the Carfax, which I could download the Carfax as a PDF, and we use PandaDoc as opposed to DocuSign because it's unlimited and it's cheaper. I could put a signature on that, PandaDoc it, but that's several steps. So that's the one piece of paper that ProMax hasn't gotten in there, but everything else they've got in there. And then when I email that to the customer, it also sends the customer a request to scan the front, the back of their driver's license, take a selfie, which is super important for remote deals, checking for fraud. And then I can request other things as well. I can request, anything you want really, but insurance, proof of income, proof of residence, that sort of thing. So they get done signing all of their stuff. Now it's their turn. Okay, scan your driver's license, scan your insurance, and then that all uploads into the same packet.
Hold on, I have a question because you skipped over this a little bit too fast. When you say, for example, a Carfax, and I just want to do this for all of the dealers that are out there, this is something that has gotten both you and I, it's caused both of us some aggravation, and so we developed this, kind of together. I can't remember if you suggested it to me or I suggested it to you. At my dealership, every single Carfax is signed.
Yep.
It's signed and it's initialed. Is that the case at your dealership as
well?
So
several years ago, I got a letter from a lawyer, guy was suing me, and it was for a non-disclosure of an accident. And I was a GSM of this monster Chevy store, and I remember the deal. I worked it personally. The guy bought a Land Rover, first mistake. He had a high interest rate, second mistake, and he put no money down, third mistake. As you can imagine, it depreciated like Land Rovers do. When he went to go trade that in, they said, oh, it's got an accident. That's why you're so far upside down. There's a lawyer in Colorado that if you Google, I want to sue a car dealership, who's the best lawyer? He's the guy who comes up. That's all he does is sue car dealers. So they sued me. I had a signature on the back page of the Carfax, and his argument was he never saw the Carfax. You had him sign the back page, which is where the signature line on the Carfax is. So we now get the front of the Carfax signed rather than the back of that Carfax. So we get everything signed there on that front page. They can see everything there.
Let's talk about this for a minute so our dealers that are listening understand. In the Carfax, you have a couple important places where there's an accident. You have the quick view box where they tell you where the information is. And then as you read the Carfax, you're going to have where the accident is. And like everything else, you're going to have a final page where there's a signature. I want to be very clear to all the dealers that listen to us out there. When you get your client to sign that back page and you don't have any of the other stuff signed, it's very easy for them to go, well, they didn't see this, they didn't know. So this is what happens at Hampstead Pre-Owned. First of all, you have to sign the first front page where the quick box is. Second, you have to initial every single place that there's an accident or damage reported. Third, you have to sign the Carfax. Now, we print each one of these physically. We make the customer do this. We keep a copy in every single deal. Since I've been doing that now for I'd say about 5 years, never once had an issue. Not one single issue.
And it's rare. The issues are rare. And then you get the unique ones where you've got a clean Carfax. 2 years later, an accident pops up from before you sold the car. And, because Carfax aggregates data and it's explainable to the customers, but it's rare. But when you do get one of those issues, and more states are going to where you have to disclose any sort of damages that are on the car that you're knowledgeable of. So It's a simple thing that prevents some heartburn down the road. We have zero pushback. We don't buy salvage cars or sell anything like that, so there's no issues there. But it's just forthright with the customers. It's transparent. They have a copy of the Carfax in their car. We put a folder together with some information that's in the car. They sign that one. We keep it. So currently, I am printing that one if they're in person. If they're remote, we scan it in. They sign it with all their documents. But if they're in person, it's still right now. It's just a little easier to print that. And then we take that deal. I do print a cover sheet, and I make a manila folder, which used to have a dozen pieces of paper in it. Now it has the Carfax in it, and that's literally it. It goes back to the finance manager. And I think pretty much everybody has been electronically signing most of the finance paperwork for a while now. That's not revolutionary at all. We are panda docking or docu-signing the title paperwork, which I just found out recently that you can. Apparently the federal government passed a law in 22 maybe, where you can do electronic signatures on, I think they call them secured forms. And it took a little bit for us to figure out, and even some of the gals at the state, let them know, yes, we can. Texas has a couple forms that are state specific that are numbered. So you can't have a generic one. You actually have to scan that numbered form in, have them sign that numbered form. But at that point, it's all done. DealerTrack emails them that section of the paperwork. And all I've got is I've got a folder with the Carfax in it.
It's interesting because I'll be honest with you, between me and you, of all of the shit that you could make paperless, the only thing that gives me any anxiety is the Carfax. And there's like 4 reasons. First of all, obviously when somebody signs on a computer, the signature is much different. So there could always be the argument of that's not my signature.
It'd be IP stamped though.
Oh, an IP stamp?
Yeah.
From what? From their
From
email?
the docu, or we use PandaDoc. And
But this is what I'm saying. So you were talking, this is what's interesting though. So I was going to get to this, the second point. With Carfax, since each car is individual, I don't know how you will ever get to a point where you could get it into this PandaDoc to get signed. That was my
so the
second
only way,
point.
like if you hit print, you pick what printer you want it to print to, you can click save as PDF. And then you save that as a PDF, and then you have to drop the signature where you want to put it. If they could automate that step where it knows where you want it signed, that alone would be awesome. But at the end of the day, it's really not that big of a deal for us. We print it as a PDF, we drop the signature line on it, and we just include it with all the finance paperwork that we need signed.
Probably getting boring for people, but let's go back to something real quick. So you were talking about an IP stamp, and so I want to slow you down because remember we were talking about having people sign on a tablet that you own. So what I'm saying is a person could always make the argument of his finance manager sign that, right? And I can understand if you're emailing it to the people. Again, this is why if you listen to the whole conversation, if the people are watching, if you go back to where we were talking about emailing everything to the customer, I said there's a level of security there for the dealer by doing that I find very interesting, and I was wondering if that was why the company did it that way, because we've had a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there are situations that come up where customers go, oh, well, I didn't sign that. And it's like, well, this is your signature. It's clear. Okay, well, I didn't see it. Okay, well, that's different than you didn't sign it, right? And so I think it's really important as dealers that we make sure that we're always dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And anyway, that's a really good conversation. It's something that I know my wife and I are super excited about. Yeah. And we want to see how it works out for you.
Yeah. The key with a signature form and with the state of Texas and probably all of them is they have to have what's called a digital signature certificate. And most of them are going to, but if you're looking at some sort of electronic signature company, just make sure that you've got a digital signature certificate. And that's just prevents fraud and that sort of thing. But it's amazing how many things that you thought you had to have a wet signature on that you just don't. And then what we did from a document storage standpoint, we looked into the DealerTrack document storage. We opted just to go with the Google Drive. So we've got a file with the stock number, sales manager makes a deal, he creates a file. So we have an inventory file and then a customer file. He creates the customer's name. You take the stock number file, drop it into the customer. And that way, if there's ever an unwind, you just pull that stock number file out, put it back in the inventory. And everything that we ever do with the customer, we just drop it into the customer folder right there. And if we ever need to access it, it's there. It's handy. So I'll keep you updated. I'll let you know what heartburns that we have. But so far, it's only been a couple of weeks since we've started it. We just started the Google Drive this week or last week. So I'll keep you updated and see how things are going. I'm sure there are a few things that we haven't anticipated yet.
Super exciting. So I wanted to talk next about lazy ass sales managers. We had this conversation last night, and so I started talking to you a little bit about why I believe there is such a difficult transition from a new car store to an independent store. And so when I was in a new car store and I was selling cars, the sales managers or desk managers do exactly that. They sit at a desk and, they have the salesperson walk back and forth and negotiate. And these are people that are not good at drumming up business. They're not good at conversion. Some of them are very good at closing when they get out to the desk in front of the customers, but they're very apprehensive and have almost no desire to go out and meet with a customer. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about, in yours and my opinion, on what makes a sales manager successful, or a manager or an owner, because they're really in an independent dealership. And I know in a new car dealership they're separated, but an independent dealership, as you know, Josh, one person kind of, the owner is the sales manager, he is the service manager.
You wear a lot of hats. And at small franchise stores, it's the same thing. You wear a lot of hats. You can't have a specialized person doing one thing. And that has been an issue, getting off track a little bit, with recruiting some talent, especially in the office. Some girls used to just doing titles or just payables or just receivables. And at our store, well, you got to do a little bit of everything. You got to do payables, because it's not a one-person job. And so sometimes that's a bit of a challenge. But at small franchise stores, it's kind of the same thing. You got to do a little bit of everything. You're desking new, you're desking used, you're closing a deal, you're doing whatever. I think what really separates a desk manager from a sales manager is you're creating a deal where there wasn't already a deal. And there's some other things with sales managers should be training, cultivating their sales staff, etc. A desk manager just sitting there working what has already come to them. Conversation I had with my sales staff on Saturday was about phone calls and prospecting and doing things that our AI bot can't do. Because if all you're doing is sending a boatload of text messages, the AI bot has gotten really good at text messages. I've demoed a couple of voice AIs. They're just not quite there yet. They will be very, very soon. They're just not quite there yet. But as a salesperson, if all you're doing is sending a mass amount of text messages and emails and you're not making phone calls, you haven't differentiated yourself from AI. And AI will probably take your job. People talk about, wow, AI is going to take my job. Well, be better than AI. As a sales manager, if you're not making a deal, well, there's not already a deal, and all you're doing is putting a number in a box and hitting print. There's no skill set to that. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. There is no skill set. And that's where I think in the industry, we're going to evolve and we're going to adapt, and different jobs are going to have different responsibilities and they're going to look differently. But if you're just an old school antiquated sales manager where you're sitting desking deals, that job's not going to be around anymore, because we can automate that job. That, where if you can take a deal where there wasn't a deal, whether that's on the phone, whether you're texting somebody, whether you're on the lot, whether you're taking a TO outside, whether you're trying to close somebody on the showroom floor and it's not a deal, that's where you separate yourself. Because I don't truly believe we can ever have AI do that. But if all you're doing is working the deal that's going to be a deal no matter what, kind of like the COVID era where you could kick somebody's dog and tell him his wife's ugly, but if you had the right truck, you were going to sell it, and for all the money. So if all you're doing is making a deal that's already a deal, you're not adding any value to the process.
They did a study at the Ivy League schools. They interviewed something like 150 or 200 top level CEOs in order to identify what made them different from the average person. I mean, you're talking about people that make an ass load of money. And they found some really interesting things that surprised them, and I won't get into all of them, but I'll tell you a few. Number one, every single one of them read. You know, I'm a big advocate for reading. We talk about it all the time. They're all readers. Number two, they all wake up to an alarm clock. Doesn't matter whether it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, when the alarm clock goes off, they get up. Discipline. Number three, this was one that I thought was really interesting. Self-awareness.
That's so powerful.
97% of people who are successful are extremely self-aware. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think a lot of that comes from reading. I think that if you're reading books on self-help, on development, on business, the first thing that you're going to learn is to become self-aware. The second thing that you're going to have to learn is discipline. But the first thing that you're going to have to learn is to be self-aware. Now, the third thing, which I find to be one of my most powerful assets, is this. And I think it absolutely defines who I am as a human being. Proactive versus reactive. You have so many sales managers in this world that a salesperson will come to them and say, I need a TO, and the sales manager goes and does a TO. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Here's the deal. Why am I having to do a TO? Where is the training point that exists that would have prevented me from having to do this TO in the first place? You don't want to lose your jobs. You don't want to give your jobs up to AI. You had better start learning to be proactive instead of reactive. And there's a lot of you guys out there that when you come to get a TO, you don't ask the proper questions. For example, let's start off with, where did your customer drive in from today? Where did they go to college? How many kids do they have? Are they dog people or cat people? Why are they on this particular car? What interests them? Was it price? Is it color? Is it this? Is it? And there's 75 other questions that I'm going to ask my salesperson when they come and ask me for a TO. Now, if they can't answer any one of those 75 questions, then that's where my training point exists. Right?
Yeah.
If they don't know where their customer drove up from.
And I'm going to interrupt you real quick. It doesn't mean that you don't take the TO. That's not what it means. But what it does is it identifies where you need to train and coach so that they can build that level of rapport with that customer and increase the odds of closing the deal.
So let me say something, okay? I am one of the laziest, most hardworking motherfuckers you'll ever meet in your life. And Bill Gates said this. If you want to figure out the best way to do something, hire a smart, lazy person to do it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm smart. I've read a lot of books. I'm learning. I'm getting better every day. I am lazy, and I do like to figure out the best way to do things. And so for me, if I'm sitting at a desk, right, the first thing that I want to do is I want to figure out how to get my staff trained to the very best possible point I can get them trained to, therefore I don't have to do many TOs, right? And the way that we do that is we understand the process or the steps to sale. We understand that the first step to the sale is building rapport. You get somebody to like you and a sale will soon follow. It's that simple, right? So if a salesperson comes to you and says, hey, give me a TO, and they don't know every single thing that they possibly could know about their customer, then we have a situation where we have to train on getting them better at the liking stage. Now, with that being said, are there certain people that are going to come into your dealership that are not going to allow you to develop rapport? Sure, but they're far and few between. They are far and few between. Most of the time, when your salespeople or you say that, it is an absolute bullshit fucking excuse. It is an absolute bullshit excuse. If you take your time and you move slow during a 30 or 45-minute process that you have with these people, you can break through, no matter who the person is. Yep. 95% of the time.
Yep, I agree. I think that rapport building stage is super, super important. It humanizes the deal. And we talk about this with our staff right now. We do so many remote deals and we're very heavy text message, which from a communication standpoint, texting is the least personal thing you can do. So the most personal is face-to-face, shake my hand, how are you? How do we bridge that gap? And for us, it's phone calls and videos. And that's an area that we've got to get better at, phone calls and videos. That's one of the things that I've started doing when a customer asks me a question and I'm communicating, because a lot of customers want to talk to me, and we've gotten very good at kind of, having them talk to the sales staff first, because I can't talk to all these customers that call in and want to talk to me. But I do a lot of videos now. Customer will ask a question and I'll send them, hey, I'm working on your deal. And now they know that they're working on the deal, that I am working on the deal.
Isn't that being proactive? Like this is what I'm talking about. It's you have a customer that puts in a lead. Now you have two choices, right? You can work that lead with intention. And here's another problem. A lot of salespeople and a lot of sales managers don't understand what that means, right? They go, well, I made 100 calls. Okay, how many of those calls did you make with an intent to sell a car?
Yeah, and we lose track of that as salespeople, and that's something that I talk about a lot. I'm not calling somebody to call them. I'm not texting them just to text them. I have to remember that I'm there to sell a car. And a lot of people will go, well, yeah, duh. But when you look back at your communications with the customer, were your questions on the phone, on the email, on the text, were they designed to help you get to the next step? And as a salesperson, that's what we want to do. Our goal is not to sell the car. And a lot of people get messed up with that, because if you go in, I want to sell this car, you're going to fail more often than you're going to win. And as ET says, winners win and losers lose. I don't want to be a loser. So my goal is to get to the next step. If customer comes on the lot, I just want to get a meet and greet. And then I want to land them on a car. Then I want to get a demo drive. And then, so my goal is just to get the next step. So at the end, if I've demoed them, I've presented numbers, I don't make the deal. I had 5 or 6 wins and 1 loss. Now I'm a winner. Same thing on the phone. What's my next step? It may be a credit app. It may be an appointment. Whatever your next step is, what can I do to get that customer to the next step? If all I'm doing is responding to their question, that might not be, probably not be, getting me to that next step.
Let's give an example of this, because I think a lot of times we can talk about this, Josh, and it may confuse people. So let me give you an example that drives me absolutely batshit crazy. Ready? Customer puts in a lead. Hey, I'm interested in this 2018 Toyota Camry. It's available. When would you like to come in and see it? That is not working a fucking lead with intent. Here, let me do it for you. So Megan puts in a lead on a 2018 Camry, right? Hey Megan, it's Anthony with Hampstead Pre-Owned. This particular car is available. What made you choose this car? What was it that made you choose this car?
Yeah.
Right? So now Megan is going to come back to me and say, well, it's in my price range. I like the color. I like the miles. I like your reviews. I like you. You're handsome. You're good looking. You have a beautiful beard. I love your eyes. Okay. But anyway, my point is, she's going to give you a whole bunch of reasons as to why she put in that lead. Now, with that information that I've collected, I can be proactive and act with intent and get to the next step. Well, Megan, we also have 3 other cars that meet this criteria. We have 3 cars that are black with these kind of miles that are in your price range. Where do you live, Megan? I live in Baltimore. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. When would you like to come up and see these vehicles? Or are you available for a phone call so we can talk about, different things? And maybe I'm going to take some time to, oh, you live in Baltimore? Where in Baltimore do you live? I grew up in Baltimore. Whatever the case may be, I am going to try to look for any opportunity that I can to be proactive and act with intent and keep the conversation.
Let me ask you this, Anthony, is all of that information, those questions, is it easier to ask and get answers from on the phone or email text?
On the phone, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to be on the phone as much as we can, right? But here's the thing. Listen, this is very important. A lot of times people nowadays don't want to get on the phone. So you're going to have to do
something. And we know
some
that 86% of the people don't answer their phone. That's an old data stat. It may be even higher than that. But here's the thing. You want to know something that I do that helps get people on the phone? They send the lead in. Hey, Mrs. Jones, Josh with Always Auto. I'm going to go outside right now, put my hands on this truck, make sure it's still here. I'll give you a quick little walk around video, and then I'm going to call you in a couple minutes. And now all of a sudden, they look at my handsome face, they see the cowboy hat, and they're like, okay, cool, Josh is going to call me in a minute. I'm going to answer the phone.
Now, that's being proactive and acting with intent. That's what we're talking about. So let me slow you down for a minute. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If you could get every single salesperson and sales manager in your store to act just like you just did, be proactive and with intent, how much do you think business would increase?
Oh, dramatically.
How much?
I mean, I would think it's a 15 to a 20% bump immediately.
A
Now, why don't people do it?
15
Let's talk about Let's talk about the
20%
reality
bump.
of life. Why don't people do that
Hold on. A 15 to 20% bump without
without spending
spending
another
an
dollar?
extra fucking dollar.
Yeah, but why?
That
Let's
is
talk about
amazing
reality.
to me.
Let's talk about why don't people do that?
Well, let me tell you, it's real simple. You ready? It goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the CEOs. No discipline, no self-awareness. They're lazy, they're not proactive, and they don't act with intent. That's what it is. So now, we have to, as owners, you and I, and we talk about this a lot, you and I, be thankful that God has given us the ability and desires that He's given us to want to be 1% better each day. Because if we didn't have that desire, if we didn't have that ability, we wouldn't be self-aware, we wouldn't be proactive, we wouldn't act with intent, we wouldn't want to develop discipline, and we definitely wouldn't get 1% better each day.
Yeah.
And so now it becomes our responsibility to try and get the people in around us that listen to us, that are employed by us, to live similar to the way that we're living.
Yeah, but not everybody's going to do that. That's a reason why there's a 1%. But where I was going with this is, like, logistically, when you talk to a salesperson, hey man, why didn't you send a video, whatever. It usually comes down to time, especially at our store. They're handling an obscene amount of leads, and it comes down to time. And what I have to constantly remind them is sometimes you got to slow down to speed up. I would rather send a couple of videos that take a couple of seconds longer. I mean, it takes 10 seconds to do a video, and then, maybe 2 minutes to go out, walk on the lot, find the car, shoot the video, etc. But what you're doing is you're increasing the likelihood of that communication, which increases the likelihood that you're going to close the deal, which is going to make you more money. So even though people feel like they don't have enough time in the day, you have to make time for those little things.
I'm going to strongly disagree with the time thing and say that it's used as an excuse and that it's bullshit.
I didn't say it was real.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Sometimes it is, right? If
Yeah,
I
I
have
don't
three
think
sales
so.
guys here today and we get 50 leads and we sell three or four cars, time's an issue. It really is.
That's a you problem. That sounds like a Josh problem, right?
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if you're getting 50 leads and you don't have enough time to work those leads you don't have enough time to work those leads and be proactive and work them with intent, then it sounds to me like you might need to hire some new staff. And we always say that, and the reality is, maybe people don't exist, but again, that's just another excuse. If Jet or Carrie's life depended on you finding a rock star today, you would figure out a way to find a rock star today. And so we have to prioritize. Now, that may not be the priority for Josh. There may be 10 other things that come before that priority. And I will tell you, from spending time with you, my friend, have no fucking time. So I wouldn't say that's an excuse on your part. But when your salespeople and your sales managers come and go, I don't have time, bull fucking shit. Here's the deal. Of those 50 leads that you got, you respond to those leads within 1 minute. The leads that you've responded to within 1 minute, 50% of them are going to respond back. Of the 50% that respond back, you're able to continue the conversation. So of 50 leads that you've got, you're able to really work 10 leads based on the funnel process. And those 10 leads, you can definitely work with intent and you can be proactive, exactly the way that you just said. And so if you have 3 guys plus 3 sales managers, believe me, in my opinion, they could find the time to work 50 or 60 leads.
Yes, I believe that. I was just pulling some data here, seeing how many engaged leads I have versus new leads, but I think my engaged goes back to eternity, so that's probably not an accurate number. But so far this month, I've had 452 leads, and I have 752 people that are currently engaged with us. So, yeah. Yeah, and I think I don't know, shit. Maybe it's average. I'm not sure, but you get a high percentage and majority of the people that don't answer their phone, they don't engage, whatever, for whatever reason. But I do believe that there are things that we can do as a salesperson, as a sales manager, as an owner that will increase the likelihood that they engage. And we know that the average person visits 1.2 dealerships. So the goal is to get them into the store. There are a whole bunch of people that want you to do certain things in order to get them into the store. For us, it's a lot of credit. So a lot of these folks are like, frankly, they would come into the store if I invited them down, but I don't want to invite them down. I don't want them here for 6 hours taking up a salesperson's time. It's not fair to the customer. It's not fair to the salesperson. So for us, we want to get a credit app and work that deal. But every store's is slightly different. What is that next step? How do I give them that next step? And how do I increase the likelihood that I'm going to close the deal? And personalizing it and humanizing it are so important. And I can't, I mean, the value in that, and I'm doing it at scale with the social media. The amount of people that forgive us for taking 2 or 3 days to get back to them with an approval or a turn down is great, because they trust me. They know I'm going to shoot them straight, even though I've never met them in my life, but I've done a good job building that brand and that rapport at scale via social media. If you're a salesperson who doesn't have that scale yet, then you've got to do those things like send them the video, make the phone call, go above and beyond, over communicate with them. It's just things that you have to do, because people don't want to talk to a car salesman. They're going to have to talk to one, but they don't want to talk to any of them. So if you feed into that narrative of you're a lazy car salesman who doesn't communicate, doesn't do this, doesn't do that, now they've got no reason to come back to you or give you a second shot or whatever. But if you over communicate, even if you don't make the deal, you over communicate, you weren't enough to get for the trade, or you weren't able to get the approval, now you've got that rapport with them. So in 6 months, when they've saved up a little bit of a down payment, who do they call? They call me. That's who they're calling.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Josh. I think that a lot of managers out there in the world, GSMs, managers, and owners, they need to understand that in today's environment, it's hyper competitive. And if you're not figuring out how to have the best pictures, the best prices, train your staff in the best way possible, answer questions for the customers, treat customers good, you're not going to be successful. And the car dealership has become this, I don't even know the word I want to use, but combination of things that you have to do. It's not being good at any one particular thing. You have to be good at like 47 things, right? You have to maintain your reputation online, because if you don't, you're going to get crushed. You have to make sure that you're answering your leads quickly. You have to make sure that your BDC is trained. You have to make sure that you understand AI and how AI works. Because let me tell you something. A lot of people think, oh my God, AI is here. It's taking jobs. It's taking lazy motherfuckers' jobs, right? If we have an AI system in our store, okay, I am always going to have a human watching that system. You have to, because AI is not at the point where it can't not be watched. It makes too many mistakes. And if you understood AI, you would know that. I mean, it's constant. So you have to be good at answering the BDC. You have to be good at setting appointments. You have to be good at getting appointments to show. You have to be good at closing people when they're there. You have to be good at following process. You have to be good at buying cars. You have to be good at transporting cars. You have to be good at getting cars through the process in the back. I mean, it is an overwhelming amount of shit that we have to do in order to be successful. One of the people that I know that was in the car business that left said, you know, the thing that I loved and hated about the car business was when I owned a car dealership, it was like having 6 businesses in one. Yeah. And that's the truth. I mean, you're running, me, for example, I have a body shop, I have a service place, I have a parts department, I have sales, I have finance, I have the girls upstairs in accounting. And I have to be a jack of all trades, which makes it difficult to be a master of one. So what I've done is I've tried to master my trade as a whole and get as good as I can in every single area of that dealership. And over the last 14 years, there isn't one position in that dealership that I haven't worked effectively. And so I understand how the whole process flows. And so because of that, gives me a greater ability to train my sales staff and to also sell when I have to.
Yep. Yeah, no, having that intimate knowledge is super, super important. And that was a step that I missed that you pushed me on, was that service fixed ops step. And then when I spent 6 weeks running that service department, I now know that I know any challenges or headwinds that that person may have because I felt it and I know how to overcome it or how to deal with it or whatever it is because I lived it. And
Here's an interesting thing I want to talk about, and this is a real world example. Josh on many occasions has come to my dealership and helped me. He spent evenings, weeks at my house, and he's helped me on numerous occasions. Josh transitioned from franchise to independent here recently, and he has a service department. So, you know, there are some issues back there in service, and I came up for about 5 or 6 days. But what I find interesting, and, you know, I brought this up to you while I was there, is you have these people that are back there working, right? And they're humans just like I am, but they're sitting there 60 fucking hours a week, and they're not figuring shit out. They're just kind of letting everything fall apart and go to hell. And I come in, and I was there for 3 or 4 days, but I was probably only back there for a total of 12 hours, right? But during that 12 hours, I completely transformed that service department. And I'm not a service guy. I, like you, Josh, was a sales guy. My forte was sales. But I had to figure these things out. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is it touches back on this laziness that's out there in the world. You have a person who works 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week, and you have to go in and you have to coddle them and you have to massage them and you have to get them to where they have to be. And even when you do that, they're only going to be, 40 or 50% of what you are. And I read a book one time that said the best you can hope for is to get somebody to about 70% of where you are. And if you can get them to where they're 70% of where you are, you'll be successful. And so my goal now is to get everybody to about 70% of where I am. But the reality is most people are not there, and most people are not going to be able to handle the pressure. And so, again, be proactive, live your life with intent, figure shit out because you can. I believe in you. Josh and I believe in you.
Yeah. Yep. And sometimes it's like, I know for me, one of my flaws is I take too much, I do too much, and then people expect it to just get done because I do it. So sometimes, especially if you're somebody who wants to make yourself invaluable. And I talked to one of my sales guys about this, and he was, talking about me, I'm going to get fired or blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, then here's what you need to do. Make it so that you're so valuable that I can't live without you. And not that victim mentality of, oh my God, this place is going to burn down if I leave. Because guess what? It was running when you got there.
It was burned down.
Yeah, it's going to run after you left. But make it to the point.
Do you know how many people fucking attributed my success to them?
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how many people thought Hampstead Pre-Owned was successful because of them. And every single one of them, at one point or another, has moved their ass out the door and sometimes back in with the understanding that, first of all, it's a team effort, okay? I don't want people to think I'm saying, oh, it's because of me. Now, I am the coach, okay? I keep the ball moving down the fucking field, all right? But I can't do it without my players, okay? And some of my players are star players. I would be really hurt. Now, Josh touched on something that I want to talk to everybody about. People pay people to solve problems. This was another thing, you can look it up, that this study found. The top level CEOs are the best problem solvers. So, if you want to make more money, make yourself invaluable to whoever owns the company, and then go and ask them for whatever you want. The problem is we do it in reverse. We come in and we go, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and I want to make this. So I pay you that, what you want to make, and then you don't do any of the shit you promised me. A lot of you guys out there are guilty of this shit, and if you're listening to this, I want you to know you're guilty of it. Go in there, prove yourself, prove what you can do, and then the world opens up to you.
Yep. Yeah. So similar to what I was going to say is make yourself invaluable. So if you see things slipping or struggling or whatever, go to your boss and go, hey, give me an opportunity. Let me do that. And now you take something off your plate or off his plate or her plate, or you solve that problem. Now you've added a little chip there where all of a sudden you're valuable, you're a little less replaceable. And if you perform at a high level, if there's so many things that you can do to make yourself valuable and irreplaceable, that so if you're in that position where things are a little chaotic, go to your boss, go to your manager, go to the owner, the GM, whoever, and go, hey, give me a little responsibility. Let me help in this area. And I mean, I'm telling you, it'll look so good on you and it'll do things for you, for your career. Even if you don't want to, like, this isn't your end point, your career, you want to move up or you want to do something else, it will help hone your mind and your discipline into doing things that, again, solve the problem. Maybe you want to own your own business. Well, hey, learning how to solve problems sure will help.
Absolutely. Well, brother, we've been on here for 55 minutes. I think we've given the people a lot of information to soak in today. Josh and I are always available to answer any questions that you may have. You can DM either one of us personally. We are here to help you. We want to serve you. That's what this podcast is about. We don't make any money from this. We're doing this because it's fun. We enjoy helping others. And so if you listen to this and you get value from this, the only thing that Josh and I ask is that you share it with a friend, share it with somebody that you think could benefit from it, whether it's a salesperson, service manager, owner, whoever. And we hope to hear from you guys. Thanks for tuning in.